Hey Flosstube, it's Erin, Ink Stitch Mama. This is the third time I'm filming this, so I'm going to try to speak slower. Welcome to my second Flosstube. Ink Stitch Mama is my YouTube name, Ink Stitch Mama on Instagram, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited about the fact that I got some likes and some comments and subscribers from my last video. That was really validating and cool. And yeah, so I thought that I would share some of my finishes. I have a fully finished and then a couple of things in my graveyard, like just some flosses that I'm never going to pick up. And then my whips, and I've like one thing in my haul right now, and a couple of other things. So let me share my finishes first. So the Supernatural Stitch Along, one of the things that I think I am really intentional about in my cross stitch that I think kind of defines my cross stitch is that I try not to frog. Like, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake and I let it go. And so I think in general across my cross stitch, that's one of my themes. Like, oh, mistakes happen. So my partner framed my Supernatural Stitch Along, and I love it. It's not centered, and the frame is from the Goodwill, and it's a little wrinkly, maybe, but I don't care. I don't hate it. This is art that I made for myself, and I love it. So there's my frame. I think I got the frame for like $3 at the Goodwill, and we bought the mounting board at Joann's. Yeah, so I don't even know where that's gonna go, but one of the things that I kind of really loved is that I finished it, and my partner was like, "Oh, you've got to get that framed." So we did. The next thing I wanted to share was, so one of the reasons why the reason why I got into cross stitch was out of grief. In February of 2020, my 5-month-old passed away from SIDS, and it was really traumatic. It was really traumatic. And in the fog of that grief, I posted on Facebook that I wanted to take up cross stitching or something. I needed a skill to fill that time. And so I couldn't just lay in bed all day. That's not sustainable. And so I asked around, and somebody from my old church said, "Yeah, I know how to cross stitch. It's easy. I'll teach you." And so she came over, and she took me to Joann's, and we bought a kit. And so I didn't finish that one. It was like a little llama. It was like about this big. I didn't finish, but I did finish others. And so the first finish, 3 finishes that I have. What did I do with it? It is, I just had it. Oh, that's weird. I misplaced it. Found it. Okay. So this was my first finish. It's a couple of hummingbirds, and I learned on Google or YouTube how to do like the daisy chain and the flowers. There's my back. I don't sew, so my backs aren't always going to be pretty. And at this time, I didn't know that having a pretty back was a thing. I think if I did it over again, I would put like some felt there, or do that thing where you use a lot of floss. I could still do that, but I'm not gonna. Anyway, it's just a kit from Joann's, and I love it. It hangs on my wall, and it's definitely a memorial to my mental health at that time. was a 2020 was a hard year for a lot of people. Um, so that was my first finish, and after that, I felt like I finished something. I can graduate into a cool pattern that I can get off of Etsy. My partner is really big into horror movies, and I had just found out that I was pregnant again, which was amazing and a miracle, and um, and also really hard to deal with emotionally, as you can imagine. And I wanted to do something that expanded my skill, and that also that maybe I could put in the baby's room. The baby sleeps with us, so this isn't going in anybody's room. But I did a horror movie alphabet, and it is framed in another Goodwill frame, and I love it. If I one of the so I stopped. I did it vertically, and I stopped around C because I remember that I was really overwhelmed with Chucky, and I stopped for about a year because I wasn't on the right medication, and then I got on some new medication, and I took up cross stitching again, and I started back up. So I love that. I love that I can tell my mental health journey in this piece. And the other things that I maybe don't love, but that I remember about this, I bought a white spool. When I went to Joann's to buy the floss for this, I thought, why don't I buy one of these big balls of white? Why do I, instead of like buying a ton of white things, why don't I just buy a big spool? And I bought the wrong thing. So I bought pearl. It's not the 6-strand embroidery floss that you can pull apart. It's like a cord. I used it anyway, and I probably wouldn't now, but I was like stubborn at the time. So on the Girl from The Exorcist R, right here, it's actually using, it's the wrong kind of thread, but it's using the white cord pearl cotton. I don't know what it's even called. So I did that on that. And then the other thing that I think of when I look at this piece is that the yellow, the Y, I flipped the colors accidentally, and I didn't really pick on it until after. But nobody cares. Nobody looks at this and picks apart my stitching and says, oh, we should change that. And like I said, I love my imperfections. So yeah, so that's a finish. After that, I did branch out, and I do a lot of patterns off of Etsy because it's accessible. And so the first one that I did that was a finish was this guy, after my alphabet. It's a character from My Hero Academia. I made it for my son, and then he said, I hate this character. He ruined the fandom. Like, I bought this pattern a couple of years ago when he was really into this show, and then when I finally was on the right meds and able to do the cross stitch, I made it, and he was like, oh no. And so I decided to keep it, even though he doesn't want it. I want it. And so one of the things that I did after I made this was I bought a portfolio of things so that I could put the things that I'm making that maybe I don't want to hang, but that I really loved making. I love my back on this because this was right around the time that I learned that backs were a thing. And yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. Again, like I know when I was making it that there were mistakes and that I could have corrected, but when you look from far away, it looks awesome. So the other one that I made that was a finish was where did it go? I'm losing things. Well, this one, The Gay Agenda, I made this for my stepdaughter. And I decided at the time that right around the time that I finished it, like, do I want to give this to her? She doesn't want this on her wall. I don't know. I second guessed the gift. And so I decided to keep it for myself because it was a lot of fun to make. And the rainbow's not perfect, and I don't care. And one of the things that I really love about this is for Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, I got this really random thread, a variegated thread. It was like really vintage J&P Coats variegated thread in a thrift haul. And I remember thinking, like, what am I going to use this for? And it turns out that it is excellent, this tan and brown variegated thread, as a taco shell. So that was one of my favorite things about this. And the other thing that I did, if I can find it, was, oh gosh, from Stranger Things. I just had it. What did I do with it? It's kind of small. I think that's why it's... Oh, here it is. I can't remember this character's name. And I think that's just because I'm thinking of it. But I made this after the last season of Stranger Things. I love it. And again, my back is on point. Yeah, I don't know. Really captures to me that it was really fun to do right after that episode, the season, when the emotions from watching that episode were really fresh. Gosh, I want to say her name is Sam, but I don't think that's right. Max. It was Max. Yeah, I made a little Max, and I love that. So those are my finishes. Yes. The other thing that I wanted to share were the two things that I have that are here that are in my graveyard. I have a couple of pieces in my graveyard. There are two that I can think of off of my top of my head, actually three, that I started when I was in the middle of my grief, and so I never finished them, and I probably won't. But I did find this one is supposed to be the Matrix. So last Flosstube I said that I don't do full coverage, and this is a reason why. I got really overwhelmed. I did a lot of research into gridding, and I bought this little needleminder that on Etsy that you could use for parking. And I researched parking, and I researched a lot, and then I just said, no, I can't do this. And I think I was really hard on myself, and this might be something that happens when you do full coverage, that you look at it up close and you can't see the design, and so you get discouraged. But when I look at it with time, I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally see. I don't know, you might not be able to see either. I got it was a matrix stitch along. When I started really getting ramped up and diving into cross stitch, I realized that stitch alongs were a thing, and I couldn't find a stitch along that was like just starting, except for this one. It was on Facebook, and like I said, I probably won't finish it, but it was a good learning experience. The other thing that I really got overwhelmed by was the size of the Ada. It was like 23, 21, I don't know, really small. And that's too small for me. It's another reason why I'm really nervous about going on linen. And so yeah, so I probably won't finish that. The other one that's in my graveyard, but this one might be resurrected as a zombie, is my Huggy Wuggy cross stitch. So I think I said last week, my last Flosstube, that my daughter, she's 7, she's really into this character. It's like a horror movie a video game character named Huggy Wuggy. He hugs you until you pop. It's terrible. And so my partner made me a pattern of Huggy Wuggy to do for her, and there's a lot of confetti at the top. I don't know if you can tell. And I got really overwhelmed by that. And so I just started doing just blue. Like, screw the confetti. It's blue. And I wish I had more patience. I think even if I just stick with just blue, I could probably finish this and resurrect it. It's on 18 count, I think. I might be on 14 count, actually. Because I think after the Matrix one, I was like, okay, I'm not doing small count anymore. Which, never say never. So I might resurrect this. I have another Huggy Wuggy pattern that I think is going to be a lot easier. So, and my daughter's like, when are you going to finish that? So maybe if I give her the other Huggy Wuggy, it'll placate her. But to say, for now, I'm going to stick with what I feel comfortable with. And that's okay. Okay. So those are my finishes. And a little bit of, like I said, the backstory for why I cross stitch in general. I think I will go into my whips. So last time that I did my first Flosstube, I was doing self-care bingo, and I did another row. So I was hoping to have this finished, but life happens, and sometimes you're too tired to finish. I'm a late night cross stitcher a lot of times because that's when I have free time, and sometimes I need sleep, as we all do. So this is the row that I finished in the last 2 weeks. I love it, and I love the imperfections. The middle one. It's supposed to be feel your feelings, and I was feeling my feelings on the day that I did this. This is supposed to be emoji, and it probably doesn't look like it doesn't look perfect, and that's okay, because I was feeling my feelings when I made it, and that's okay. I really love this one, Educated Myself. I was watching these 20 stitches on Flosstube when I did this, and they are a really great educational Flosstube, really intentional, just beautiful Flosstube. They are really great at educating. For example, a big component of their Flosstube is educating about transgender issues and concerns, and I love that. My stepdaughter is non-binary, and it's a super important Flosstube because they do more than just floss. And so I actually was educating myself in watching that Flosstube. And the Flosstube that I was watching was episode 8, where they talked about how to show compassion and be intentional with transgender family members during the holidays, and I love that. So that's my jam. So it was very educational. Thank you. And yeah, so this is my works in progress. I have one more row. I don't know when I'll get it done. I would love to get it done this year. It's December, maybe before January. We'll see. But I did a new start, because one of the things that I was thinking was, nobody, like, I can't just have the same whip every week. It's going to be boring. So I started a Witchy Stitcher Captain Spaulding. And I'm making really good, fast progress on it. And I dyed the Ada. It's 14 count Ada. It's actually kind of driving me nuts because the ends are fraying. And I know I could finish them to prevent that, but I'm not. Anyway, I dyed the Ada. It was my first time dyeing Ada. I also dyed some linen, and that was really fun, using teal Ritz in the sink. So I dyed the Ada, and yeah, this is my Captain Spaulding. The artist is the Witchy Stitcher. I will put this in the information. And I'm also hoping to have this one done this year, but we'll see how it goes. I'm making really fast progress on it. My idea is to work on this on the weekends and do my self-care bingo during the week. So those are my whips. One of them is a new start, and I love both. So this is a short floss tube. The other thing that I did have a really cool haul, if I could find it. I got a, oh yeah, I found it. I got a needle minder. After saying that I really suck at losing my needles, I got a needle minder. It's a little cute little cat from Autumn Lane Stitchery, and it works. It actually does hold on to my needles most of the time. And she's just adorable. My little kitty cat from Autumn Lane Stitchery. I'll put her information in there too. I also bought a ton of patterns on Etsy. I joined a couple stitch-alongs that I haven't gotten the information about, but as those come in, I'll be able to put those on my Flosstube. And so these stitch-alongs start in the new year. And I also bought a book of days and a cross-stitch daily diary, or like, it's one of those diaries. I got it on Fat Quarter Shop, where you can like list your projects. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I hope I can keep up with it. But I bought a book of days because I've seen a couple floss tubes that have that kind of organization, and I just think that's really cool. And if I was going to be a non-monogamous stitcher, what's the opposite of that? Poly stitcher? I don't know. I would benefit from having that organization. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not an organized person, so we'll see. I also, here's that linen that I dyed. I will one day have the courage to use linen. Maybe if I do start small. And so yeah, that's my whips and my haul. So the other thing that I wanted to share in the last couple of minutes is a couple of things that I got that are not my creation, but that I still think are really cool and like stitch related or stitch adjacent. Two of them are things that are like heirlooms from my grandmother's, and then one of them is something I got at the thrift store. So in my grief, I bought this at a thrift store, and it says, "To be a child is to know the joy of living. To have a child is to know the beauty of life." And it is mostly printed or stamped. I wonder if that's on purpose. I don't know. But if you look up close, you can see the embroidery in the flowers. And then on the back it says, "Best wishes to all of you for a lifetime of special moments and pleasant memories. Love, Ben and Joanne." Gosh, I wonder if Joanne made this. How cool is that? I can't promise I will pick up and adopt every cross stitch I find at a thrift store, but they all deserve good homes, and this one especially. It looks like she finished it herself. Like, how awesome is that? So this hangs in my house, and I love it, and it gives me a lot of peace, especially when I think about grievy type things. So yeah, if you donate things that are cross stitch related to a thrift shop, they might get picked up. The other thing that I was going to share, so when my grandmother died in 2019, I was really close to her, And when I went through her things, I found this cool pincushion. What the heck? This is amazing. Um, and it looks homemade. Check that out. Ah. So I'm still like, what? Um, it had a ton of like dressmaking type pins in it, and then you can see it's got a lot of these like antique looking pins. I don't use it. Actually, I use one of those tomatoes for my pins, but I might. And it's displayed in my room, in my bedroom, and I love it. The other one, the last one that I have that I think is like stitch adjacent is my blanket behind me. My other grandmother, I think maybe my great grandmother. So in October, when I went to New Mexico to visit family, my great aunt said, "I have a ton of stuff for you to take home with you." And I was like, okay. But one of the things that she did was she gave me some blankets that my great grandmother had made. And this is one of them. The other one is a knit blanket. The cool thing about this is that I started on seeing on Facebook a bunch of like, it's called huck weaving. It looks so cool. It's like you stitch above the blanket and not below. I'll show you. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I was in bed and I was looking at this blanket and I was like, wait a minute. Is that huck weaving? Did my great grandmother make a huck weaving blanket? Like, yes, she did. So I have this whole blanket. This is the front in these beautiful vintage colors. And this is the back. So you can kind of see what I mean by it. I am not a historian and I could not tell you the history of huck weaving, but you should definitely Google it because it is really cool. So I'm loving this. I love it. I love it. So yeah, that is my treasures for the week. For the 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, I will probably, let's see, Christmas, hopefully finish one of my whips, at least one. And then in the new year, like I said, I'm in a couple of stitch alongs. There's like a snarky Facebook group, Valentine Gothic stitch along that I joined. And then I also joined the one on Fat Quarter Shop, the Quilting Star. Not, anyway, not because I necessarily like that, but because I really want to join some stitch alongs. And then I feel like I joined another one. Oh, I thought about joining the Storybook Storytellers I don't know if that's their name. I'll stitch along with the Little Mermaid. I maybe, if I do, I will post the progress. Maybe 3 stitch alongs is too much. I feel like some of you would say, ha ha ha, 3 stitch alongs, I could eat that for breakfast. And then I have a ton of patterns. I've been buying patterns on Etsy like crazy, and the patterns that I shared last week too. So I've got nothing but stitching to do. Thank you guys for watching my ramblings and for sharing, especially today. It's really cool to talk about my daughter and do it in a way that puts it out into the universe. Yeah, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you for watching my show. My show? Is it a show? Whatever. Thanks. Oh, gosh, like and subscribe. How did I forget to say that? Like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram and Ink Stitch Mama. Thank you so much.